Good evening, everyone. We are back with another Disney review, 100 Years of Wonder retrospective. And I think as of this movie, it kind of feels like we're in the final stretch now. I mean, that's not technically true. We've got like another 2 and a bit months before we finish this retrospective completely. I still keep saying it. I said it last week. It's amazing how quick this has gone for me. I knew it would once you start doing one a week and it kind of becomes routine. Looking back, knowing that we've been doing this for,
It's
well,
been over
about
50 weeks.
yeah, over a year now
Yep.
since we did Snow White is insane to me. But we're up to number 50 today. And I think this was like a big push for Disney. They changed the logo at the beginning with Steamboat Willie. It's Disney 50. We're up to the next 10, isn't it? So, number 50, Tangled, in a very offensively pink, shiny slipcover. This came out in 2010, directed by Nathan Greno, I think his name is, and Byron Howard. And I didn't see this when it came out, actually. I was really late to the party on this one, but I have watched it numerous times since then. And I'd say probably out of, can we call this modern Disney? Would you say that this is sort of like the first one of modern Disney, sort of that CGI aspect?
It doesn't feel like modern Disney, but it's modern Disney.
Yeah.
It definitely feels past Disney. It's got all the humor, it's got the chemistry, it's got everything. It's got everything that we've missed for fucking weeks. I don't know how long, but Disney has started it's begun to feel draining in lots of ways, but this brought it right back.
I always talk about those sort of tentpole movies in terms of the Disney canon catalog, where a certain one will come out. I mentioned like Cinderella after you had the war era, and it was like, right, we're planting the flag, we're back. Snow White was right out of the gate. Then you had Cinderella. Beauty and the Beast is another example of that, where they took the traditional elements of what worked for some of the old ones and brought a new spin to it, brought a fresh take on it, which kind of gave birth to the Disney Renaissance. I would say this is a similar case to that. I think this is that next tentpole movie. Now, I love Princess and the Frog. Obviously, we talked about that last week, and that is almost like a fond farewell to traditional animation. And in all honesty, I think for a long time when I looked at this, I kept thinking, oh, man, I wish this was in traditional animation as well. Just Rapunzel, like the look of the fairy tale world, and even the characters, how they're designed. I was like, oh, but you've kind of designed them in a way where they almost look like their hand-drawn counterparts. But after watching the movie, and I think I may have stayed away from the movie for that reason, I was kind of just got on my soapbox about traditional animation, and I was, you see the concept art sketches, and I kept thinking, oh, just do that. Please just do that. And I think actually a lot of it was originally conceived to be hand-drawn, but the powers that be at Disney wanted it to be CGI. After watching it, though, and there's a certain sequence, it's indeed the background of this video, the lantern sequence. When I watched that for the first time, Disney chills were engaged. I was blown away, and I thought, yeah, I can kind of see why you've done this in CGI. It gives a sort of more cinematic depth, perhaps, for certain scenes. But I think even visually, and maybe it's kind of what you said there, just how it feels that we're back to the Broadway musical style of the songs. You've got a great Disney villain in there. You've got all of the tropes that you come to expect from those great Disney films from the 90s, the Renaissance. It's polished up with a new aesthetic with the CGI animation. But even the animation itself, it feels like it's almost in this in-between, this sort of uncanny valley between that new era and still kind of feels like it's back in the days of the traditional a little bit.
Yeah, it's I think the animation looks amazing in it. Yeah. I think by at this point, it feels like Disney know what they're doing now with their animation. Whereas it took them how long to get into it?
Very long time, yeah. Like the days of Chicken Little and the initial stages, yeah.
Yeah, what was the one before Princess and the Frog?
It was Bolt, wasn't it? That was good.
Yes. Yeah, see, that was all right animation-wise, but it felt like it took that time. And then Princess and the Frog, they took some time out and they really refined those skills. That's what it feels like coming to this, because this feels brand new. Like it does, because the thing is, you can group like Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, Bolt. You can group those, together in animation-wise. Whereas this, I think, feels like a completely new level.
Yeah, no, totally. And there was a lot of new technologies that were developed for this, which probably accounts for the huge budget that this film had. I didn't quite realize how high this budget was. If it's true, it's purported that the budget for this film was 260 million, which, if that's accurate, puts it as the most expensive animated film ever made, and also just in general, one of the most expensive films ever made, if that is true. I don't know if that's counting marketing as well. I really hope it is, because if it isn't, then you've got to kind of add another 260 mil on top of that, which technically puts this at a loss, or if anything, like it barely broke even with a 592 mil takeaway at the
I
box
do
office.
wonder why though, because it was a great movie, and I feel like it should have got. But I was the same. I didn't see it. I think I say I didn't see it. Like I didn't go to cinema to see it. I do think though Disney it was still kind of picking up the pieces from the train wrecks that they had like sort of done. I think they were still bringing their audience back, which kind of shows as well, considering how big Frozen was. I think the fact that they had, because realistically you had the three together, because after this is Wreck-It Ralph, and then you had Frozen. So realistically, you had like the three princess movies together. You had Princess and the Frog, then you had Tangled, then you had Frozen. It was sort of all leading up to that. So I'm not saying it definitely would have, but if you had switched them around and put Frozen here and Tangled where Frozen is, how big of a difference would there have been in terms of how much they would have earned?
Well, I mean, Frozen was originally conceived as traditional, wasn't it? They were going to do one traditional, one CGI, traditional CGI, and that was going to be the pattern. And I guess they did stick to that for a while. They did Princess and the Frog, Tangled. The US list gets Winnie the Pooh, which technically is an animated classic. I don't know why it's not in our list. And then Frozen became, CGI and whatnot. So.
Well, the thing is, they've
Yeah.
had that trilogy going on of the princess movies of Princess Frog, Tangled, and Frozen. So if you'd swapped them round, would it have made more money being the third one? Because by that point, they've got their princess fan base back. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know what it is with Frozen. We'll get to that. It'll be fascinating to look at, because that is like that just cleaned up at the box office. That was like what 1.4, 1.5 billion or something at the box
I think
office.
it was 1.2 and the second one was 1.4.
It's a very rare case where the sequel does even better than the first one, because it's often you get like a little bit of a drop off when it comes to the sequel.
How well is the third one going to do?
Well, if we carry on with that prediction, 1.6, I suppose. It will make a hell of a lot of money.
It's going to take the third one to bomb for the fourth one to bomb.
Yeah. Well, I think they know it's going to do well, because they've already put the fourth into production, haven't they?
Well, yeah, but you say that. They were going to make 7 Dragon Ball movies, but it absolutely flopped, the first one, and no one likes to talk about its existence. So, people think these things are going to do well. So you don't know. It might. I mean, it probably will. It will probably do well, but will it be them turning around going, do you know what? We're going to leave it there. Not, but in the sense of, because it does well, but it has some sort of backlash. But I think no matter how much backlash it gets, because they know it makes money, they'll do the fourth and go, oh yeah, but we'll redeem ourselves. And it'll take for that one to bomb for them to not do anymore.
That'll be weird talking about that eventually, won't it? Saying this is a first for the Disney Classics line. It's the first trilogy we've had, and then it's the first quadrilogy we've ever had, or whatever you call it.
Just don't do a Toy Story. To be fair, they've already done that.
Yeah.
Frozen should have never had a sequel, but here we are.
I agree. I'm amazed that. Well, I say Tangled hasn't had a sequel. It kind of has. It's had a bit of a legacy, which there was
no one really knows about it.
No, I know. There was a short film that was released, which I think when I went to see Beauty and the Beast in 3D, this was years ago now. This is probably around like 2016, 2017, maybe. They had this little Tangled short at the beginning, which is their marriage, and it's mostly Maximus the horse, and he gets up to like a bunch of shenanigans. It was kind of fun. I'd never seen it before. I don't know if it's on the DVD for Tangled. It's probably on the DVD for Frozen, actually. I think it was put at the front of that as well. But then relatively recently, I say relatively recently, 2017, is that still relatively recently? It feels
7
like
years ago. There
probably
are kids
not them
that are in school that weren't born then.
And
if you look hard enough, I can guarantee there's a kid out there that wasn't born that is now a parent. I can guarantee if you look hard enough.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, you have Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures, which I think it was actually like advertised as Tangled 2, and it's in this kind of almost cel-shaded looking animation, or it's 2D, but it looks like the end credits style animation to this movie.
It does look low budget. It does. That's the thing.
Yeah. But I'm guessing that is a sequel, or maybe sort of set in between, isn't it? I think
it's Frozen Ever After was supposed to, Frozen Ever After, fucking hell, Tangled Ever After was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be a sequel. I haven't seen too much into it. I watched bits of various episodes, and the animation's it's nothing amazing.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched it, so I don't know if it's any good. But in terms of the fact that we've got 2 Wreck-It Ralph movies. We're about to have 3, maybe even 4 Frozen movies.
Well,
What else has had a sequel? Have we had any other? Zootopia 2's coming out. I'm surprised they haven't done like a proper theatrical
yeah.
Tangled 2.
To be
I'm very
fair, they
surprised
never
about
did a
that.
Bug's Life too.
No, we're still waiting on that, but it's probably best that we didn't, and it can just remain a one and done, and
Yeah,
it's
just like
all
Tangled.
good, just like Tangled. Yeah, so let's talk about like the first time we watched this movie then. So I've kind of I genuinely can't remember the first time I watched it. It probably would have been on when I bought it on DVD as part of my collection. I think I did stay away from it for quite a while and then was really pleasantly surprised when I watched it. It's interesting because you messaged me before we went live saying that because you were rewatching it just before we went live and you said that how much it reminded you of Shrek. And I thought that too the first time I watched it. And interestingly enough, when it was first put into production and the idea was pitched, probably not the idea behind it, but the actual concept of a Rapunzel film being made, they later said they wanted to put a more Shrek-like spin on it. And I think you do get that very often. I think there are a lot of comparisons in there. Maximus the horse really reminds me of Donkey in Shrek 2 when he takes the potion and becomes the noble steed. The tavern they go to, the rough and tumble tavern they go to, the Snuggly Duckling, which is my favorite name for a pub I've ever seen, reminds me of, I think it's called the Poison Apple in Shrek 2. And just the vibe and the kind of, it is kind of meta with some of the humor in there, I think, a lot of the time with this one. So it feels like it's getting into the more self-aware fairy tale style. It feels very modern in some aspects, despite it being
There's a
set
lot of
way back
modern
when.
humor as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where like the Shrek comparisons come in, definitely, as well as the animation and everything. But it's interesting that it was conceived around the time that Shrek came out.
I never even noticed it like that, to be fair, until today.
Yeah.
How much it looked, it reminds me of Shrek. But you know, it was just, I think, yeah, it's the tavern, it's the look of everything, it's how everything's quite, you know, it makes fun of itself. It talks about itself. It does that. It's very self-aware in a lot of ways, and I think that you know that's one thing that makes it very very Shrek-like. The look as well. But even when what was it? Where you know Flynn's just like I can't remember how he says it, what he says, but it's you know it's just like okay, so you have magic hair, and she sort of glosses over it, and
Yeah.
it's that kind of you know that kind of I know he doesn't say this, but sort of like we're not going to talk about that. Okay, cool. You know, it's that kind of vibe of you know the jokes, which you know they work really really well, and it you know that's where it feels very very Shrek-like because Shrek is it's a piss take of itself, and this has that sort of humor here and there in it.
Yeah, definitely. It was I was just reading here, I was trying to find the quote. So it was the supervising animator, Glenn Keane, actually came up with the idea in 96, but he pitched it in 2001. And Michael Eisner approved it, who was the then CEO of Disney, but he Eisner requested that it be in computer animation. He didn't want it to be in traditional. And there was a little bit of pushback about that, but obviously it won out in the end. And in 03, the original title was Rapunzel Unbraided, and from Keane himself, who originally conceived the idea, said it was described as, quote, a Shrek-like version of the film, which is interesting. The first concept, though, I think they were way off base, and I think they realized how far they'd strayed away from the original fairy tale. So apparently, it was going to be set in a modern-day San Francisco. That was going to be the setting of the film. And the story was going to be centered on two teenagers called Claire and Vince, and they're transported into the fairy tale world. So it'll be like a fish out of water kind of story, I guess.
Remember that movie Enchanted?
Yes, well, probably that's maybe what it led to. I never even thought of that. It's a great shout. And they inhabit the bodies of Rapunzel and the prince, and then Rapunzel and the prince from the story, they step into the real world. So yeah, very much like Enchanted. Great comparison there. But apparently they're turned into a squirrel and a dog when Rapunzel and the prince come to our world. So a little bit
Wouldn't that
different.
be very like Princess and the Frog, though?
Yeah, I think so too. They had cast ready to go. They had Reese Witherspoon, Kristen Chenoweth. Apparently, I've never heard of Kristen Chenoweth. They were in talks to play the roles, but very, very soon after, they said it was, quote, a wonderful, it was a fun, wonderful, witty version, and we had a couple of great writers, but in my heart of hearts, I believe there was something much more sincere and genuine to get out of the story. So we set it aside and went back to the roots of the original fairy tale, end quote. Which I think was absolutely the right way to go. I think they would have really missed a trick of, especially the classic fairy tale, princess prince fairy tale stories, to just completely disregard it that way. I'm fine with them going with like an original spin, but I feel like that's way off base from where they should have gone with it personally.
And then they just changed the name.
Well, yeah, so this kind of stems back to what we were talking about last week. So one of the reasons where, here's the thing, like Prince and the Frog was very, very well received. It made its budget back. It did make profit, but it didn't make as much profit as Disney were hoping. And they were kind of, I guess there was probably like a lot of pointing fingers afterwards and suggesting, why didn't this make as much money as we hoped it would? And essentially what they boiled it down to was the fact that it had the word princess in the title, which they felt geared it exclusively pretty much to a female audience, and therefore they lost a lot of the revenue because it wasn't like a gender fluid film, which sounds like a disgusting term, gender fluid, doesn't it? It sounds a bit gross and biological and clinical. But yeah, they felt that they didn't market it to the wide demographic, and they just kind of narrowed it down to sort of like, girly princess movies, which, I hope someone doesn't tell Walt Disney that about Snow White, which was incredibly profitable.
I know.
Beauty and the Beast, which was also incredibly profitable, and The Little Mermaid, which is also incredibly popular and was incredibly well received.
I know. I did.
So
yeah, I know. It's like I saw a quote. It was like, that's like changing Little Mermaid to Beached. And
yes, very good. It's a good comparison, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's, I don't know. Because to be fair, it should have been called Rapunzel, shouldn't it? It should have. I get it. Like, I do.
They had a graphic for the title and everything. Like, it was ready to go. It was locked in as Rapunzel. It was a last minute change to change it to Tangled.
It was, yeah. It was like Rapunzel, and it was what, Rapunzel something.
Well, originally it was Rapunzel Unbraided. Then it was just Rapunzel, which they should have gone with, and then it became Tangled. Yeah,
I know. To be fair, like, what was it? Princess and Frog didn't make as much, did it? It was like it made money, but it didn't make what their standard was.
Yes, yeah, what they projected it to. I think with the return to form with traditional animation, they expected it to be like this grand tour de force, which it just wasn't.
It's like when Van Halen released Fair Warning. It did all right, but it wasn't the multi-platinum selling album that they expected, because they're a multi-platinum selling band, and they had to, buy their way into get it played on radio stations and stuff. But this is about Tangled. But anyway, but my point is, there's a good comparison there. But yeah, no, it was. To be fair, I get what they were doing. I do. Yeah, it should have been called Rapunzel. It should have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the he was a former Disney and Pixar animator, had a quote about it, who was really against the idea of them changing the name of Rapunzel to Tangled. And he said, quote, "The idea of changing the title of a classic like Rapunzel to Tangled is beyond stupid. I'm convinced they'll gain nothing from this except the public seeing Disney as desperately trying to find an audience." Well, that statement is still just as true today as it was all the way back then. Disney are so phony. They will bend in the wind to wherever the money's heading. So all of this, they'll have. I always do it as a comparison, but John Boyega on the Star Wars posters for the sequel trilogy was removed or very, very much shrunk down on the poster for marketing it to China. Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman on the poster for the first Black Panther film, when he's in that pose, they covered his face with the Black Panther mask for the posters in China. They will bend and weave. It's like the ancient one that we keep mentioning from Doctor Strange as well, how they're just conscious that they'll offend everyone, and you'll never get that now. Like, can you imagine, like, oh, we removed the name Rapunzel because we thought it would only market it to girls. But actually, no, I actually think they probably would now. They probably would still do that. That wouldn't be the narrative, though. They wouldn't outright say that, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, it's I think it should have been called Rapunzel because it's supposed to. This is the story. It's the story of Rapunzel. That's it. It's Little Mermaid. That's the story. That's what it should have been, rather than change it, because we know what it is. I don't know. I agree.
It's funny because Disney outright denied it that was the case, and they said that, oh, we just thought it was like a fun title to change it to. Yeah, here we go.
Right.
So it was in the November of 2010. Let me just find it here. Yeah, so it was the two directors. They were asked about the title change, saying that it was a marketing decision, and they said that they changed the name from Rapunzel to Tangled because Rapunzel is not the only main character in the film. Well,
I mean,
you know, throw up a list of fucking film titles throughout the ages. You know, that's not always the case. And they went on to say that, quote, you cannot call Toy Story Buzz Lightyear. And they really needed a title that represented what the film is, and that it stars the duo of Rapunzel and Flynn Rider. So that's why it's called Tangled. But then 4 years later, John Lasseter, the executive producer of Disney, of the film, said, "Oh yeah, no, the reason that we changed it was a marketing decision." So they'll say anything in these press conferences just to save face in these interviews.
I know it's quite laughable, really.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the film a little bit more properly then now. I mean, there's other avenues and behind the scenes and how it developed, especially with the animation, but character-wise, we always kind of start with characters. I think that's a good enough place to start. Who is your favorite character in this film?
Do you know what? I want to say Rapunzel is my favorite character because I just like how it's that whole she doesn't know where she doesn't know where she is. It's that I wouldn't say ditzy because it's not that's not the right word to use, but that whole not knowing where she is, it's all alien to her. I like that. I like that vibe. I like that she hits with a frying pan. That's one of the coolest things as well. Which she does in Kingdom Hearts, which is great. And I thought that was amazing that made it to the game. And, you know, I think, I'd say her because of that. I like that whole when someone's put into a world that's very, very alien to them. You know, I love that whole sort of like, I've never seen this world before kind of thing. I love that whole aspect that characters have. And that's, you know, one thing. And, you know, she is one of the, you know, she is a really, really strong character as well. Because of what she turns into. Not a big fan of when they cut her hair short. You know, she was an attractive blonde girl, and then they cut her hair to short brown hair, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, aside from that, like you know, but no, I do like that, and you know, I think she's again another strong Disney princess. She's not a damsel in distress, but she's got that element of Rapunzel. She lets her hair down, she does all that, and I think the contrast works so well with her.
Oh yeah, no, I think she's brilliant. I love how we're introduced into her world and her routine through that opening song number. I think they do some really creative things with the animation and the humor there. And I think she's just really likable. She has that naivety to her, and this is kind of like the modern humor coming through. But I love how things are edited in this film. There's a lot of gags where they'll repeat a joke, and you see lots of different ways that it plays out. An example of this is where she stashes Flynn in the closet, and like he'll flop out, and then it will cut, and then she'll like back him into the closet, and then he'll fall forward. And there's loads of different takes of different kind of slapsticky things that happen. And it happens when she leaves the tower. She goes through like every single emotion possible. She's like, I'm having so much fun. Oh my god, I'm such a horrible daughter.
Which they repeat in Kingdom Hearts. They do that exact routine in Kingdom Hearts 3. And you got Sora, Donald, and Goofy just standing there like Flynn, just like, okay, cool. Just waiting for her to
speaking
chill.
of Kingdom Hearts, Brian was in with a comment earlier today. He says, I love this movie. It's a great world in Kingdom Hearts 3. And I think Tangled should make a comeback for Kingdom Hearts 4, but focus on the Tangled TV show. Yeah, that'd be an interesting take. I don't know how many people have seen the Tangled TV show, though. That's the only thing.
The thing is, I haven't seen it myself enough to know how well it would work, but I do want Kingdom Hearts to do more of that. It's like, I don't know how it worked with Alice in Wonderland, but like, because for instance, the Jabberwocky itself hasn't been animated. But something like that where it takes it beyond the first original movie. And it kind of goes, well, we did other things. And it's like, oh, okay, you can incorporate that because that will work with the game. I think doing a couple things like that would work. Nothing too obscure, I guess. But I think I would like to see Kingdom Hearts do more of that. So it would be a good shout, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I was just having a look. Apparently, originally, this is very interesting. The directors auditioned hundreds of people for Rapunzel's voice. And among them were Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell. Well, we'll see those again in a couple of
Yeah.
films' time. So, but apparently they didn't sound right for Rapunzel. Mandy Moore does the voice and the singing of Rapunzel in the movie. Apparently, she was kind of part of the Disney family already at that point. She'd worked on Brother Bear 2, which I haven't seen, so I don't know who she plays in that. But I think the voice is perfect. When she watched it back, I don't know if this was regards to her voice or her singing, but she was quite critical of her own performance. She said that she felt like she gave a very shrill performance as Rapunzel. I don't really get that. I think the voice matches very well. I was going to mention, do you think it starts, this is a Disney movie where it starts to stray into that celebrity voice kind of realm? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's not,
Yeah,
you know, how you have like, theatre
I
actors.
do know what you mean, but I think we're starting to see that kind of because Idina Menzel, she's not this, like, she's not your. I'm trying to think what's a good comparison. Someone else.
Well, she's of the stage and theatre, really, isn't she?
That's
I
what I
guess.
mean. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, when they did it through like the Renaissance era, or no, before that, way before that, they'd have those stage people. They're the people that were doing the voices.
Yeah.
And that's what we started to get. And that's kind of what I feel like with this. I feel like it was the right choice. I don't think there was too over the top, because the thing is, you've got to think, in like Mulan, we had Eddie Murphy, we had Gilbert Gottfried, and, you know, Ziago. You know, we had a lot of those here and there, but I don't think we're seeing it that much at the moment. I think we're going through a nice transition. We'll start getting it back soon, but I think at the moment we're getting that stage theatre thing back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can totally see that. And yeah, sorry, I was just reading about it's actually really nice to hear her be really positive about getting the role as well, because apparently she was a huge Disney fan growing up with all the films. And she, you know, she remarks about that she's honored to be part of this legacy of Walt Disney and all these films, which, my God, it's so refreshing to hear someone say that, because I'm just reminded of the Rachel Ziegler interviews for this new live action version of Snow White. You know, when she was really like fucking snidey and cunty about it. And she'd clearly been given a lot of notes by Disney at that point saying that, oh, you know, well, a lot has changed. It's been 80 years since the original came out, and we're not adapting that because, you know, times have changed, and she's going to be strong and independent, and the original's a lot dated now.
I don't understand what's so sexist about the original.
Yeah, it was so like spiteful and smarmy how she acted, how she conducted herself in interviews. And it's funny because there's a later interview a couple of months later where she'd clearly been had like a talking to from Disney, and suddenly she was like, oh, the original's wonderful and amazing. And it's like, you're full of shit. You're so full of shit. So it's actually nice to hear someone say, you know, they were honored to be a part of it. How very different things were 15 years ago, eh? God, 15. Well, it is almost 15 years since this film came out. Yeah.
There are kids that are leaving school this year that weren't born then. That's scary.
Yeah, and she kind of remarked here, she was talking about her character, saying that Rapunzel, quote, Rapunzel doesn't know she's a princess until the end of the film. She's just really sort of motivated to find out what is out there beyond the crazy tower she's lived in for 18 years. And I think that adds a nice aspect to the character. It's those tropes that we've seen before with a lot of these princesses, but that's why it works. It's a tried and tested method, and it always works in these kind of stories. It's the I want song. They always want something. They want more than they have. They want more outside of their life, usually like in the confines of a certain routine or life they're leading, like Princess Jasmine wanting life outside of the palace, Belle wanting to get out of this humdrum life that she's in and to discover, you know, to go on an adventure and see something new. It's very similar to that, but I think it works for the character. What I question is why Mother Gothel, like, her plan was foolproof. It would have been perfect. Why did she tell Rapunzel that her birthday was on the same day of the lanterns? She could have picked any other day, yeah, and it would have worked. But yeah,
I did think that. I was like, well, that's your fault, to be fair. Like, you're the one that fucked up there. It's like, I saw this interview with this person who was like a crime scene investigator, and was just like, sometimes people mess up in like the silliest ways. It was like someone wrote something in blood with like a what's it called, an exclamation mark. And when they pressed like the point, like the dot, it's like that gave us their fingerprint. It's like, you can't write how silly some people are. It's like, it's the same thing. Like, I'm sorry, but that's your fault.
yeah. Well, I guess we could talk about. Well, do you want to talk about Flynn first, the male lead, or do you want to talk about Mother Gothel first?
Well, to be fair, Mother Gothel is I like her, but that's because I don't like her. I like her because she's so horrid, and
Yeah.
that's what makes her great. And she is a good character. And she is evil. She's seen for the right amount. She doesn't overstay her welcome. She's not like, oh, I could have done more screen time. She's there the perfect amount. Not a big fan of her villain song. It's
Oh, see, I love that.
see, I don't hate it. It's very. I don't know. I just listen to it and I'm like, yeah, cool, right, we get it. Let's move on. Like, I don't know. It's just one of them. It's okay. But no, her as a character, I think that's what makes her great. Is you don't like her.
I think the voice performance is fantastic. I didn't know who it was. I looked it up, and this was from a while back. It's Donna Murphy apparently, and if I remember correctly, I think she's in Spider-Man 2. If it is who I'm, yes, she plays Otto Octavius's wife, Rosie, who gets killed in the giant experiment that he has for fusion.
He does. Yes.
I love the energy of this character, the persona, the way she's animated, the expressions on her face. It's absolutely perfect. One of my I forgot some of these lines actually, but it did make me laugh. And she is just like a horrible person. Just how she constantly like bullies and berates Rapunzel. What do you call it? Where like someone's hot and cold, gaslighting. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but as she goes, Rapunzel, look in the mirror. I see a beautiful, intelligent, independent woman. And also you're here. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. And she has loads of lines like that at the beginning. I thought it was brilliant. She just plays a classic villain. And honestly, looking forward, I think, can we say that Mother Gothel is like the last proper Disney villain we have moving forward, where they're a villain continuously all the way through the film?
Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've not. When was the last one I saw? I've not seen past a certain one. Past, I think, Zootopia, no, Wreck-It Ralph 2. There's a few I haven't seen. So I can't comment on those specifically, but like, yeah, like Frozen doesn't. Frozen has, the guy who you don't think he's a villain, then he suddenly is for a little bit, and he puts her over his shoulder, and then no one cares about him after that.
Well, that's kind of the new trope. That is kind of the new trope of a lot of these Disney films, is that you'll have an unassuming character, and then they'll have like the switcheroo, the villain switcheroo at the very end. But in terms of like, that's not fulfilling to me. It can work sometimes.
Yeah,
it's been done to death.
But this is I mean, so much so in Frozen that in Kingdom Hearts, he's literally doesn't even have a speaking line. He's just there. He's got her on his back, and that's it. And then no one says anything to him. Like, yeah, it's very it probably.
Well, let's have a look. You've seen Zootopia, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to spoil like all these other Disney films, but let's have a look at this. So you've got King Sugar Plum Fairy, King Candy Crush. What's his name in Wreck-It Ralph?
The one that is actually because it's Candyland, and I still like that movie, but yeah.
But again, that's a villain who you have the switcheroo at the very end, right?
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Big Hero 6 does have a villain, if I remember rightly, but not a very memorable one. But I think it does have a villain.
I'm trying to remember who it is. To be fair, I know there's the cubes and stuff, but is it like?
I can't. But I remember there is. It like wears a black trench coat and like a mask or something, I think. Frozen, you have the switcheroo. Zootopia has the switcheroo. Moana, I'm not going to give anything, but that has a switcheroo as well. I think all of them have. I mean, I haven't seen Wish. I haven't seen Strange World, so I don't know if there is like a Disney villain there. But yeah, I genuinely believe that Mother Gothel's like the
Strange World probably doesn't. Strange World probably has someone holding someone's hand going, no, we can't be naughty, can we? Like someone being like, don't offend them. Some weird fucking,
But Mother Gothel does kind of give me those Lady Tremaine vibes a little bit, sort of Maleficent vibes, the way she conducts herself, how she's very graceful. Evil Queen from Snow White. She's very graceful, how she's animated and everything. She actually kind of looks like Cher from the 80s, which, well, that's a comparison there. Cher's like desperately trying to cling to youth with all the surgeries that she's having to remain youthful.
That's the thing, I never thought of that.
What was Mother Gothel's plan? Because like Rapunzel's not immortal. She ages. So Mother Gothel would just live forever until Rapunzel eventually died of old age, and then what was her plan after that? She'd just instantly die.
Well, can Rapunzel like heal from her own hair?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because apparently it also has her tears as well. That breaks the rules. I hate that bit at the end where, yeah, she is. But I was also thinking as well, like with Mother Gothel, like how quickly does she age? Does she need to do the flower gleam and gloom? Does she have to do that song every single day, or is it like once a week, once every couple of days? I don't know.
Having to do that every single day.
Yeah.
That would be mad. Just like every time you get up, you're like, right, got to do a song.
Because I'm trying to think. Because Mother Gothel leaves the tower. I think when she says that she wants some paint and she has to, it's a few days trek. And when she comes back, like she's grey, isn't she? So maybe it is like every few days she has to do it, which is insane.
I don't know. Does she have to sing though? Does she have to? I don't know.
Yeah, apparently it works. I don't know, but
it's one of those things in musicals where someone sings about something, and you've got to think as a bystander. Would you be there going, "What are they doing? Why are they singing?"
Yeah.
You'd be like, "I don't know. It's just what we do."
It's the wonderful escapism that musical brings.
I think that
Tobias.
I think that'll be. I was going to say, I think that'll be really good in Kingdom Hearts if they go to a world and then it's actually like proper start singing and they're there just like, what are they doing? Like, it's just what we do here. Just get on with it. I was like, okay.
Well, then we did have Finny Fun, so they have joined in.
Yeah, but they joined in. They should have gone the other way and been like, "You guys are weird. What are you doing?"
Hell, there was a musical rhythm game. Is there a moment where Sora's jumping with Donald, like, "Hey, why are we on like sheet music here? Why are we on the stave?"
Don't remind me. That was interesting. I mean, I didn't mind it. It's just the fact that you had to play it to understand the story for the last 10 minutes, and that made me sad.
Yeah. I was looking at the voice cast for this movie as well, and I didn't know this guy was in there, but this is pretty cool. So, which one was Vlad? Vlad's like, is that the Viking guy, like the big burly guy at the pub?
Is it the one that tells him, when he gets on the board where he goes, "Stretch your legs out." Why am I stretching my legs out? And that kind of, I can't remember.
Is he the guy with the tiny little unicorns? I can't remember.
I don't know which one he is, but yeah, go on.
But Richard Keel played him. I don't know if you've seen the James Bond movies, but Jaws in Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, the big tall guy, he was like 7 foot something, and he had the metal teeth. He did the voice of him. Apparently, this was his last ever film role. Didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did read that.
So we got Tobias in the comments. He says, "Holla gang, how you doing, man? It's been a while. Hope you're keeping well." And he's asked us a very important question. He says, "Which do you guys prefer, Tangled or Frozen?" Tobias says, "Personally, I think this movie is a 10 out of 10."
It's a hard one. Both stellar movies. That's a very hard one. I kind of want to say Frozen just because I think I've seen it the most, and I think with Frozen, there's almost not a bad song in that movie. It's a movie where I think every song, because I remember when the first thing I thought about it when I saw it was this is. I mean, when I saw it, I already knew the hype, and it was always supposed to be this amazing Disney movie, and I was like, okay, cool. And I watched it, and I thought, okay, yeah, no, this is good. But the music, I thought, what stands out? There's not really a bad song. There's some less than others, but they're all pretty stand out. So I have to say Frozen tops it just because of that. But I do hate the cold, so.
So it swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, really, exactly. I don't know.
For me, I think genuinely, I think I've only seen Tangled once, and it's been a while. And I think when I watched when I watched Frozen, it was very difficult for me to divorce everything that I already knew about the movie, the insane hype, the amount of money that it made. Everyone was talking about it. Let It Go was playing constantly on loop. And I think I kind of went into it with maybe a little bit of a negative attitude, just like, well, let's see what you got. Let's see the phenomenon that you are, Frozen. And I watched it. I was like, I can give you like 20 other Disney movies that are better than this movie, that are better than Frozen. So I think maybe I did go into it with perhaps a little bit of a cynical attitude, but I will say I've only watched it the once. It never had any kind of staying power for me. It never brought me back.
I've watched it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times. And I think the first time I watched it back to back with Dragon Ball Battle of Gods. So that was a good night.
Yeah. So for me, I'd have to say Tangled's better. I think the humor's better. The traditional fairy tale elements are still all intact, which I think are lost somewhat in. I always keep saying it should have been an adaptation of the Snow Queen, the Ice Queen, whatever you want to call it, and they could have gone in a really interesting avenue there if they'd have gone with the fact that Elsa would be the villain of the piece, but they bottled it at the last minute. So I would say Tangled's a lot better. I've watched it way more, and I still absolutely loved it on this rewatch for this review. So yeah, my money's on Tangled. Tobias says Frozen has better songs, but the story is much worse. It's like a 6 out of 10. I think that's fair. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, I mean,
I do really
it's
like the
just
songs in this, though. I must admit, I do really like the songs.
Frozen essentially is go up a mountain, go down the mountain, go up the mountain, go down the mountain.
Oh, in Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
It's basically a hike.
We've got a Yasir Smith Mohammed as well, who says, "What about Frozen 2?" I actually prefer the music, I think, in Frozen 2.
I didn't. I was going to say basically. Well, no, not the opposite, because I don't prefer Frozen 2. I prefer just Frozen 1. But Frozen 2, I remember thinking it was all right. But if you were to ask me what happened, I would just be like, stuff. Like, it wasn't anything that stood out. Into the Unknown was all right. You know,
Love
it was
that song.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't really remember much else from it. I did enjoy it, though. It's not like I don't remember it and I think I didn't enjoy my time. I did like it. I've watched it once. I'll watch it again when we come to it, but it doesn't have the staying power that Frozen 1 does.
To me, the songs in Frozen felt too pop songy, too modern pop songy sounding. When you compare it to Tangled, I don't get that with Tangled. Maybe you get a little bit with When Will My Life Begin, where the acoustic guitar starts up and it's a bit sort of like Taylor Swift or whatnot. But you have songs like I See the Light, you have the villain song, I Got a Dream, and that feels more classic Disney. To me, the music just sounds way too modern pop sounding in Frozen. That being said, I will say when I went to the Disney Orchestra, the Sound of Magic concert, and they had the Frozen section. It sounds like a supermarket, doesn't it? Went to the Frozen aisle, the Frozen section. But they had a medley of Let It Go, Into the Unknown, and Show Yourself. And I must admit, hearing that with the orchestra and you've got the visuals up there, and when it first queued up and Let It Go started, I did an eye roll like, oh, for fuck's sake, of course they're going to play this. But I was captivated and I was like, okay, this music is grandiose. And it probably has earned its place in the pantheon of best Disney songs, even if it is overplayed.
It's great though. Yeah. I like it, and it's the one actual proper Disney song. It's in Kingdom Hearts 3, and you play on the rhythm game as a proper actual vocal piece and everything. It's great.
Yeah. Yasir says they are coming out with a Moana 2. They are. I believe the new trailer came out today, which I've stayed away from. I don't think I'm going to watch any more trailers. I've seen the teaser for it, and we will check it out. So it'll be one of the ones that caps off our retrospective. Once we've done the main line of Disney films, we're going to go back and catch up with the 2 on the US list, and that'll be it. Tobias says Tangled has that old school musical vibe. All the songs have a purpose in the story and it fits the tone of the scene 100%. And that is down to the master himself, one of my favorite composers, the absolute genius that is Alan Menken. It's so nice to have him back doing a Disney film. You can always tell when he's doing one, maybe apart from Home on the Range. I wasn't too keen on the music from that, I must admit. I think he phoned that one in a little bit. But it's so nice having him back. Now, they did want to get him back for Princess and the Frog, but he couldn't make it work because he was working on Enchanted at the time. I still really like the songs in Princess and the Frog, but yeah, as you mentioned, this film in general just feels like it is going back to the Disney Renaissance with that new modern CGI shine to it and that advancements in the technology. And it's nice to have a soundtrack that kind of encapsulates that old-timey feel. It feels like we're in very safe hands. All of the songs, kind of end with that big bombastic number, and the character will kind of almost do like a jazz hand or like their arms outstretched, and the last chord will be hit, and you can almost imagine like the pause for applause from the audience in like a musical production. And to me, that's when Disney excels. Like that's why the Renaissance to me was so popular, is because it adopted that style and it ran with that formula to great success throughout the 90s. So yeah, I mean, I love the soundtrack to this film.
Yeah, this one. I mean, I think that the Dream song, one of the ones that's up there for one of the best, because
it's fun. It's a really fun one.
Yeah, exactly, because it's that, classic Disney kind of feeling. But I think Where Will My Life Begin, and I think that's the most standout for me. But the dream song is, I keep calling it the dream song, but it's not called the dream song. It's called, what's it called?
I got a dream. That one.
That's it. I got a dream. But the dream song sounds cooler. I like it. The dream song. But yeah, it's that's, I think, one of my favorites because it's just so Disney like. It's the most fun. It's that kind of, if it wasn't there, it wouldn't feel it. It makes it feel so much more Disney. The fact that it's there, it's that kind of fun, whimsical, kind of cool. Let's do a song kind of vibe.
Yeah,
if Disney had, like you said, that Broadway musical thing, if they didn't do it, it wouldn't feel as much like one.
It works so well for, well, I think it just works so well in general for Disney, but especially a film like this. I love it, and it's just nice to have Menken back because, yeah, Home on the Range was the last one, and it doesn't feel like that long ago since we talked about Home on the Range. But in terms of this movie, 6 years, it's a big time to be away, really, from all these projects, and this is the last Menken score as well of modern Disney. I'm surprised he hasn't come back in any way. Maybe he wanted to take a break from that. Oh God! Don't you name it? Don't you name him? He's 75. Don't you fucking name him? I don't know if he has retired or if he is still doing music.
I think he is.
Oh, he did some music for Disenchanted, which is the Disney live action Disney Plus series, isn't it? Oh no, sorry, Disenchanted. It's the sequel. It's Enchanted 2. I didn't even know that was a thing until right now. Apparently, has he done anything else? Let me just let me see what Alan Menken's got going on. But he is the heart and soul of Disney, as far as I'm concerned. I know Disney predates him by quite a ways back, but oh no, he's still doing stuff. Oh, he did the music to the Little Mermaid live action version. Of course he did, and the Aladdin live action version.
The little black one.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I refuse to acknowledge that movie.
So he's in work. Okay, that's good. But yeah, his soundtrack. Let's talk about favorite songs from this one then. So it's really difficult for me because I actually kind of love all the songs in this. I think When Will My Life Begin is a great. I like how it gets reprised as well, just like Belle's song did as well. Classic Menken trope, classic Broadway trope, actually. Mother Knows Best, I think, is a great villain song. I love the staging of it. I love the lighting and how it's almost in complete darkness with the spotlight. And I think that the singer, the voice actress, just absolutely nails the role of Mother Gothel and brings a lot of personality to that song. I Got a Dream. That's like the fun comic relief one, isn't it? But I gotta say, obvious choice. It really is an obvious choice. But I think it's one of Disney's best songs, certainly the modern era. I See the Light is an outstanding sequence, wonderful melody, beautifully sung, beautifully composed. And the first time I watched this film, I was, as I mentioned, the Disney chills. The Disney chills are a thing, and they continue to be a thing. It's a sequence that still kind of moves me to tears every time I watch it. And it's when you get a special animated film and you just think whether it is hand-drawn or CGI, it doesn't matter. When a certain sequence just nails it on every level, on the visuals, the direction, the staging, and obviously the music itself, when all of those work in concert, you can produce a truly beautiful sequence. And honestly, that scene to me, I See the Light with the lanterns, that could be a short film in and of itself. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. The light, that's why I had to use it as the background. The cinematography in that scene is just outstanding to me.
I think, yeah, it's really, really important when you get movies that have movies within the movies, when they have those little basically set pieces, because I think you get so many movie stories, anything, it's focused on just the story. It's nice when you get that moment for characters, where you get 5 minutes of, it could be like a wedding, it could be this, it could be that, and it's nice because it really stands out. And I think, we miss that from a lot of Disney movies, having those actual moments, because like you got on Beauty and the Beast where they had the the bull, and that's like a movie in itself. It's a nice thing to happen, and I think movies really, really benefit from having that.
Yeah, and honestly, it was this sequence in particular I mentioned earlier where I was kind of watching it thinking, well, this could be traditional. All of this could be hand drawn, but it got to this sequence, and I was like, okay, I don't think that this sequence would have had the same impact in terms of its cinematography, the way the camera moves and it moves between the lanterns and whatnot. I think it still could have been a beautiful sequence in hand drawn, of course it could, but that was the scene that kind of cemented it for me. And I think it's a song that's kind of overlooked as well. You know, I think Let It Go's maybe outshined it a little bit. Pardon the pun, but to me, I See the Light is up there in some of the best Disney songs, especially like if you're going to like break it down to like love songs in Disney. Definitely, I think it's one of the best.
Yeah, I think Let It Go has overshone a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it has. Yeah,
but it is a great song.
It is. No, I'll agree. Very overplayed, but I'll agree. Just going back to sort of favorite Disney films. Yasir says my favorite Disney movie is Aladdin. Fantastic choice. I won't argue with that.
Yeah,
that's probably in my top ones as well.
Yeah, I feel like when we came to it, because my actual favorite changes a lot. Like it's always sort of Black Cauldron's going to be up there, but I feel like when we got to Aladdin, I think I said the same. I think because Aladdin is probably definitely one of my top. It's up there with Lion King. Aladdin is just amazing.
I think it'd be good to do like a ranking or like a tier list or something once we've done all of this, just to see if we could rank them all in order of our favorites. But we'll have to do our own list because we'll probably differ on a few things.
60-something movies.
Yeah,
6. I know, but I'm there thinking, right. So I'd start with number 1. The hardest bit will be choosing number 1 going there. But is that number 1? Is that number 2? Is that
we could make it more simple. We could do like the tier list where you have like S tier, A, B, C, D.
That might be a bit easier. Because otherwise I'd be like, hang on a minute. No, actually, that's going to be my number 4 now. That's actually my number 1. So but I think the S tier myself, I think that works really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Tobias says Maximus the Horse just cracks me up. Yeah, I actually forgot some of the gags from Maximus the Horse in this one, and he was cracking me up a lot of the time as well. I'd love like a sassy horse character. It reminded me of like El Tivo in The Road to El Dorado, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yes.
The same kind of personality, or as I mentioned, like Shrek, with Donkey turning into the horse in Shrek 2. My favorite bit, I think, with Maximus is where he walks into the tavern and he's kind of like a bloodhound. He's like sniffing out where they've ran off to, Flynn, and then he just stands up, parts the crowd, and like walks through them. Like I completely forgot about that scene. It caught me off guard. I thought that was brilliant. They do a lot of fun visual stuff with the horse in this.
Yeah, I did think he's and it's the fact that the character doesn't say anything. It's like that Mr. Bean character doesn't say anything. It's that visual humor.
Yeah. Let's see. So it says the ending of Tangled was sad. Okay, this is where I kind of get into my my very few problems that I have with this film, and I can overlook it, and it's fine. They establish the rule that when she sings, she has magical hair. It's her hair that's magical, and that is the element that can bring eternal life to someone. So when she heals someone with it, when they've been stabbed or whatever, I was initially against that, and I thought, well, healing, making someone younger, that is in effect a sense of rejuvenation. So, okay, she can heal wounds. Fine. She gets a haircut at the very end, and all hope is lost. All power is gone. It ain't working. She's singing, it ain't working. But she cries, and they do the whole Beauty and the Beast thing with like the whole tear thing. And apparently now she has magical tears that can resurrect people from the dead, heal internal bleeding and wounds and everything. I'm sorry, I'm like, you had a rule here. You had an established rule that the hair was magical, and now apparently she's got magical tears. I hate that part towards the end.
Think about this. Do your tears have magic powers?
Probably not.
Have you ever tried crying on someone that's like badly wounded?
It works for Fawkes the Phoenix in Chamber of Secrets.
Exactly. So you don't know. So have you tried it? If you
I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it.
There you go then. So the next time you see someone visibly like with a giant wound, cry on it and see what happens, because it might work. The fact that more people haven't done that just shows what's wrong with society.
Tears are a bit salty though, aren't they? Would that be like literally rubbing salt in the wound?
Well, it's a chance we've got to take.
So it kind of loses me there. Another thing to point out as well, I know it's a kid's film, but that's no excuse. When Mother Gothel stabs Flynn at the very end, no blood on the knife, I thought, wow, we're a far cry away from Black Cauldron.
Yeah.
But even Beauty and the Beast, when Gaston stabs Beast in like the kidneys, like you see blood off the like flicking off the blade. So we can't even do that now apparently. But it's
I
like
know.
a perfectly clean knife, and it just
I hate that. I really do. I hate when there's no blood in things where there should be blood. You know,
Yeah.
that's like one of the biggest things I hate. Where there should be blood and there's no blood. It's like if you're gonna do it right. You know, it's like, I'm sorry, but someone stabbing someone, why should it be more? I'm not saying show them bleed out all over the floor and all that, but what I'm saying is like if you're able to show them stabbing someone, why can't you show a bit of blood on the knife? Why can't you do that? You know, there's so many things to do it, and it's one thing that really irritates me. So I'm like, but that's not realistic. I know it's a kids' film, and I know it's not, you know, it's magic hair, it's all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, yeah, but there's that sense of realism. You know, it's like whenever you've got any sort of story, no matter whether there's magic involved or whatever, you've got to have a sense of realism. You can't just go stupid with it. And that every time to me just feels like you've just gone weird. I just hate it.
Yeah. I forget when he gets cut on the hand, doesn't he? Earlier on the film, like, is there blood then? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is. It's the whole Pocahontas thing again, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, where Coco gets shot and there's no visible entry wound. It's like, well, where did he get shot? He got shot by air. Tobias says, and at last I see the light. He says, as a musician myself, that song was beautifully inspiring, a work of pure art. I completely agree, man. It's just Alan Menken for me is up there he's easily my top 3 composers of all time. Like the work that man has produced, you just listen to any of his scores for any of his films, any of those Disney films, and you just think
up there with John Williams.
Yeah, no, legitimately, honestly,
who is
yes.
also very old.
You need to stop naming people, please. But just think, like, he's confronted with like a blank piece of sheet paper, and you turn that into like the wonderful symphonies and the wonderful scores that we have, even like the incidental music that you hear throughout. I can't even comprehend the genius that goes into that. I really can't. For every instrument as well. That's the thing. It's not just one. It's for everything. It's outstanding. Tobias says the tier list would be sweet. Just keep the live action remakes as far away as possible. Fear not, Tobias. We ain't touching those at all. I remember when I was watching those on my old channel and reviewing them. Aladdin was the straw that broke the camel's back.
What? I'm trying to think
done.
what ones I've seen. I think I've only seen 2. I saw Cinderella, which wasn't that bad, and that was the first one I saw.
That was kind of before the main push of them, wasn't it? It felt very different. Yeah,
I think Cinderella was it like the first one they did?
Well, I mean, you could say that the Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians from back in the 90s was one of the first examples.
Cinderella was the first one that sparked
the modern ones, yeah.
Yeah, and
maybe Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland was 2010, wasn't it? The Tim Burton one.
The thing, yeah.
If we count that as well.
The reason I see that as different, because Alice in Wonderland is just a different thing. I see it as it's a very different, but that might be the way I see it. But Cinderella was okay. Then I think I saw Beauty and the Beast, which was shit, and I never saw any more.
Yeah. I watched Aladdin pretty soon after that. And then I was done. I was like, I am not giving my money. I'm not giving my time. I'm not having these wonderful works of art ruined before my eyes. I'm not doing it. And I think the next one was The Lion King, which I know isn't live action, but just pointless fucking remakes, man. Tobias says all of them suck with the possible exception of The Jungle Book. See, I even thought that one sucked. If you're going to say which one sucks more and which one sucks less, then I guess, Jungle Book sucks less, but...
Well, I saw what was it? I saw like a review. It wasn't a review, but I saw like this paragraph on that Mufasa movie, and it was
the movie that no one asked for, but somehow we're getting this December.
It's no one asked for it, but the line it said something like the most anticipated movie, and I was like, no, it's not. No one wanted it.
Have you seen the like to dislike ratio on YouTube? It's fucking glorious. But
is it when's it out?
This December.
Nah, I'm good.
No one's talking about it. We've had like one trailer for it, and no one gives a shit. It's great.
Yeah, I'm good.
But that other one, I keep saying like the live action one, the CGI one, made all of the money. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, as long as they keep making money, people are going to go and see them. But I think people have wised up to them a little bit now. I think the whole Snow White debacle, that's going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, it just annoys me that they keep making money. People keep
in a
going
way,
to
I'm
see them.
intrigued to see Snow White just because of how bad it is. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued just to see what they do. But will I subject myself to that kind of torture?
Yeah, please don't. I just wanted to talk about the animation really quickly in this. There's some
It's very
beautiful
good.
there's beautiful concept art for this as well that you
The
can see.
water looks amazing as well in it. The
Yeah.
water every single time when they go over the rocks and they escape and there's the water spray, it just looks great the whole time.
Yeah. So Glenn Keane, who was like one of the chief animators, I mentioned earlier, he wanted the film to be in 2D traditional animation, but the Disney executives and said that they would only greenlight the film if it was in if it was in CGI. And due to that, Keane actually did something called he held a seminar called the Best of Both Worlds, apparently, which I actually think would have been really interesting.
Which
seminar.
is the name of Van Halen's Best Of album.
Yes, is it actually? That's great. That's fucking great. Great reference. Love that. We got 2 in this one. I love it. So he had 50 Disney CGI artists and traditional artists, and he got them to draft up and focus on the pros and the cons of each style for how it would serve the movie. I think that would have been really interesting to see there, actually. We all know that the CGI eventually won out, but they did use a lot of the aesthetics from traditional animation in there. And they developed a lot of new technologies as well. One thing they found very difficult with limitations they had before was making humans look realistic, but they added that kind of traditional spin onto like the larger than life. You got like the Disney eyes and the proportions and everything, like the big and how they move. Yeah, so they kind of got around that a little bit more. Whereas I think with Shrek, I think the humans in that are more realistic than say how the mannerisms of them in this particular Disney film. But another thing they worked really hard on, and the element of the film that they found that the trickiest to get right was the hair mechanics. The way it moved, because she's got a lot of it. She's got a lot of hair, and it's always there in the shot. So
I always thought that if they didn't cut her hair off and make her look like a lesbian, then like would it have been hard for her to? It would have been quite hard for her to walk around. But she does tie it up at one point. There was a bit where she ties it up, isn't there, with all the
I thought that was
fun stuff.
Yeah. But I actually kind of like that they went, because I know that she has insanely long hair. Obviously, of course she does, but it felt like they went even further with it, just, for that visual aspect of the hair all trailing around the room and in the rafters and whatnot. I think that's quite a fun visual idea. But it was a senior software engineer, Kelly Ward, spent 6 years writing hair simulation programs for the simulation. So things that would have taken ages to do with hand-drawn animation could be done in minutes. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons that we are just seeing so many CGI films now, is that they're easier to well, I wouldn't say easier to make, but they're a lot more time efficient than traditional would be. But fair play to her, 6 years working on a program for like making realistic hair so that it moved correctly under the water, and when it was moving around when she was walking. It looks great. The animation looks absolutely stellar. Love the camera angles and the kingdom and everything. It's just all top-notch stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a very big jump from Bolt.
And it's really vibrant as well. Like, I love the colors in this, like the greens. And when I've seen you play Kingdom Hearts 3, I was astounded at the graphics in Kingdom Hearts 3, because it almost looked like I was watching it. The graphics of computer games have caught up so much that it looked like I was watching the film. It's insane. But like the blonde of her hair and the pink of the dress, like the greens of the kingdom and everything. It's just really nice to look at, isn't it?
That's one advantage, I guess, isn't it? That they think like, well, no, I say one advantage, but for Kingdom Hearts especially, when they do that, they're like, oh, we can animate them looking exactly the same, like they do with Toy Story characters, that sort of stuff as well. But I guess for the movies, it's all just one big thing now, rather than there's the 2D, then we can do a 3D. It's just one big thing, isn't it? It's like when the princesses were all in Wreck-It Ralph 2, it's like they were just all the same thing, rather than, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously Snow White and stuff were different, but I think that's another thing that makes it easier for them.
So we talked about most of the characters. I was just going to mention, because we haven't really talked about Flynn all that much. What do you think to Flynn as the male lead character?
No, I like him. I do. I think he's everything that most men are in a lot of ways. I think he's great. I think he's funny. I think what was it when he was? It was just funny because when he was like, "Oh yeah, Flynn's. You know, that's my name." I thought it was about time someone knew, and she's like, "Oh, I got magic hair," and that was just a weird him being like, you could see on his face he was like, bit different, but okay. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I just think he was funny. I think he gives off everything that you'd want a character to give off. You know, he's that kind of, even when it's the end where he's like, after ages of asking, you know, after ages and ages of her asking, I finally said yes. And then he's like, okay, I asked her, that kind of thing. It's just that I think he gives off that, you know, fun vibe that you'd expect from any male lead.
He's like Han Solo, isn't he? He's the scoundrel with a heart of gold kind of character, really.
Yes,
He's a
he
bit of a
is.
Lothario. He fancies himself this. He bigs himself up, but he's a little bit slapsticky. He's a little bit of a fool sometimes.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's your Han Solo who will die in the sequel.
Didn't happen. Not canon. Didn't happen. Not in my book. But yeah, there was a lot of jokes with Finn that I completely forgot about as well. Probably one of my favorites is during the "I Got a Dream" song, where they all say like, "What's your dream?" and he goes, "I don't sing," and they all draw the swords,
Yeah.
and it just hard cuts to him like singing and dancing on the bar. I thought that was fun. Yeah, I think he's a really interesting take on the sort of like the hero character, and a lot layers to the character as well. Is he in it for his own ends, or does he believe in true love? It very much is Han Solo, isn't it? You know, does he believe in the money or a greater cause? So I like the character. I think he's. I think Zachary Levi, who does the voice, I think it's a great personality to the character. Here Comes the Smolder is a great scene as well. Probably his famous line.
Pascal, that's another great character.
I like Pascal. Yeah, I don't know if chameleons are native to. Where's Rapunzel set? Was the stories gathered by the Brothers Grimm? So it's Europe, isn't it? Is it a Danish story or?
I'm always confused because they're all in different places. I'm like, I don't know where this one is.
It's German story.
German.
So I don't know if chameleons are native to Germany, but there we go. But yeah, again, classic tropes, isn't it? Classic tropes of an animal sidekick who's the cutesy little sidekick character who's there.
Yep, set many years before Auschwitz.
Well, she's got the blonde hair, hasn't she? Well, yeah, you know. Does she have blue eyes?
She has green eyes.
Oh, okay, you know.
I think.
Clearly not a true German then, right?
No.
Tobias, just going back to when we mentioned about the Lion King remake, said the quote unquote live action remake made over
billion.
What? 1 billion.
I thought I said 18 billion.
No. Oh, hang on. He's back. Hang on.
Like, is that a thing? 18 billion? But yeah, 1 billion.
Let me see how much it actually did make. What year did it come out? Oh, it's 2019, wasn't it? Yeah, here you go. Basically, if I'm rounding it up, 1.7 billion. What the fuck? How does it make that much money? That is insane to me.
Cute kitties. That's why.
I don't give a shit. 1.7 billion. That's a lot of fucking money. How? I don't get. I know that Lion King's popular and people flock for the name only, but Jesus wept. Tobias says this movie does have a great look to it. He's talking about Tangled again now. It's a bit like Clone Wars versus Rebels. Clone Wars had much more cartoonish designs. It made for a more cohesive feel to the world. Yeah, it's so strange when you watch Rebels and you watch characters who were in Clone Wars appear in Rebels. You have like Yoda and you have Anakin and they just look wrong, and you look at it and you go, they should look like how they did in Clone Wars. So yeah, it is very strange. Tobias says Rebels was trying to split the difference with more realistic facial and character designs, and it always felt a little bit off. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think Clone Wars has a really cool visual style to it. Even if I'm not a massive fan of the Clone Wars series, but the animation, yeah, it does have a cool look to it.
I never watched Rebels. I'd rather think that it doesn't exist.
It's not canon. Don't count it. It's not canon.
Like Book of Boba Fett and
not canon. Don't care.
Acolyte and all that bollocks.
Yeah, not canon. Didn't happen. None of it happened. Anything Disney made, even though I love Andor, Even though I didn't mind Rogue One, but Andor's fantastic. Andor is like fucking outstanding. Even then, I'd be like, yeah, no, if it meant getting rid of everything else that Disney's done, wipe it clean, wipe the slate clean. I think that's everything we can say on Tangled. I guess final thoughts on Tangled. Is it still as good as you remember?
It was a nice return to Disney. It felt like a long time since we'd actually had. I mean, Bolt was good, but it felt like a long time since we'd actually had a Disney movie because Bolt was. It was good. It was still that kind of not. Whereas this was return to Disney, the reason we started doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, this felt like the modern equivalent to me of Beauty and the Beast. Now, comparing this to Beauty and the Beast, Beauty and the Beast, hands down, easily. Like that's my favorite Disney film ever. But this felt like the modern equivalent of that, where it's got its foot in the door of the old, but it's pushing boundaries with the animation and doing a lot of new stuff. They really pushed the technology with this one, which I feel down to this movie really helped springboard all of the modern, I guess you could call it sort of like the modern Renaissance. I might not like it as much as the Disney Renaissance, but undoubtedly the next few Disney films are sort of like major hitters and, names that are remembered now. A lot more so than like Chicken Little or Meet the Robinsons, all those other movies there. And I really feel the aesthetic of this movie is kind of what has become the norm now from Disney. And I think it kind of all stemmed from this one, to be honest. So kind of pioneering in many ways and just a really fun, great take on the tale of Rapunzel. Even if I do wish they'd have kept the title the same of Rapunzel, but hey, it's the film that counts, right? And it's still great. So yeah, this was absolutely delight going back to this one. Next week, we're actually watching one that I haven't watched all that many times. I think this was a one and done for me. Interested to watch it again though, to see if I have a different opinion. It's Wreck-It Ralph. We're going to have Zangief in a Disney movie.
I like that movie.
We're going to have Robotnik in a Disney movie. Is it just a little bit? We can save it till next week, but you actually have a great idea that we was tied in with the whole video game vibe with this movie. And
I did.
Yeah, in the meeting where you got like all the video game characters, you had a great idea of a character that should be there.
Oh yeah.
That would tie it all together. But we'll save it for next week.
It wasn't, and it makes me sad. But yeah, it was. I like that movie. It is weird seeing Sonic in a Disney movie, isn't it?
Yes, incredibly so. That's kind of why I'm against it. But...
Do you remember when they made the game of it though, the actual Wreck-It Ralph game, when you go onto the Disney website when it came out?
I don't. Was it like the Donkey Kong kind of one with the barrel?
No, you could. You could actually play the actual game that's in.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
I did like that.
But as I say, I've only watched this one the once. It wasn't particularly memorable to me, but I will gladly give it another go. That's going to be next week, number 51. We're getting through them. We're definitely getting through them, aren't we? So, yeah.
I know. And after Wreck-It Ralph, we've got Frozen.
We have. I'm kind of excited to watch that again, see if I have a different take on it. I'm going to keep an open mind for it, but that will be in 2 weeks' time. So Wreck-It Ralph next week. I want to say a big thank you to everyone that's been commenting and keeping the conversation going, sharing your opinions. And this has been really fun tonight talking about this one. So what's coming up on the channel? Well, first and foremost, if you're discovering this video after the fact, let us know your thoughts on Tangled if you haven't done so already. And let us know what you think of it. Please do subscribe to the channel. I know that I've been a bit quiet this last week. I've been kind of having like a little bit of a break, I suppose. We've been keeping the Disney things going. I do need to try. I've actually got the day off tomorrow, so I'm going to be trying to re-edit the episode 8 of The Rings of Power that got taken down for copyright. I'm going to have to record my screen. I'm going to have to record the audio separately, and fingers crossed with the power of editing, and if my computer can handle it, I'm going to try and re-upload that either tomorrow or at some point this week. I'm just thinking it's going to be a massive file size, so look out for that. I need to do an unboxing video as well. I got a new United Cutlery weapon a couple of weeks ago now, and I really want to do an unboxing video of that. So, yeah, there's stuff. At some point, me and you will probably be watching the Penguin series. I've been hearing fantastic things about it, so that will be coming in the future as well. But if not, you can just tune in next week and we'll be talking more Disney, and we always love doing it. So thank you to everyone who watched us tonight. Hope you're all doing awesome. Have a great night, and we'll see you on the next one. Tobias, there is a tempest in me. Oh boy, yeah. And there'll probably be more videos coming up soon with everything Middle Earth as well. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.